After getting the assessment of whether the person is genuine and you got to know that the importer here is really good, insurance is 100% mandatory for any goods, whatever it is. Whenever you go with import and export, you are supposed to have. Whomever he feels the price or the quality is good, he'll go with those exporters or import code, that is IEC. What is it? IEC, that is called import export code. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I'm Vidhyaashram from the Department of Business Studies in Vidhyaashram PU College, the Temple of Excellence. Welcome to the next session of International Business. In this session, we're going to learn about the import-export procedure. Now, what exactly this import-export procedure is? Now, a major distinction between domestic and international operation is the complexity. Now, when we go with this complexity, please understand there's a lot of complexity in import and export procedure. And when we go with the documentation, I'll tell you, it's way too different. The way the retailer and the wholesaler, they do the business, and the import and export happens within like the entire countries are involved. Now here what happens is too much of documentation happens. That is, the importing country should actually produce, as well as the exporting company or the country need to actually produce. So here you need to understand, when we go with the import, you have a different documents, and when we go with export, you have a different document. So in this session, I will be doing the export procedure document. Now, export and import of goods is not that straightforward as buying and selling of the domestic market. Is very true, because you don't need any kind of a documentation when you go and buy from a retail shop or a wholesale shop. But if you want to buy something outside the country, that is, you want to go for importing, or if you want to export your goods, there are a lot of documents which are required. So in this session, I'll be explaining about the export procedure. Now, what is this export procedure? The number of steps and sequence. See, when I say sequence, it follows from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like a kind of chronological order which you are supposed to maintain, in which these are taken vary from one export transaction to another export transaction. So export procedure are like this. I've listed here a few of the export procedures. So steps involved in a typical export transaction are, the first one is, before going with all these things, I'll just tell you what exactly the real story is. Now, we have an exporter, and there is a person called importer. We have exporter and importer. Let's go with this. Now, before the exporter sends anything, before that, the first thing is what? That is receipt of inquiry. Now, the importer who is importing the product need to send something called inquiry. Done. Inquiry is done. Now what he'll do is, the exporter will check the inquiry and all, and he'll actually give a quotation. Quotation is done. So we got to know what a inquiry and a quotation is done. The receipt of inquiry and sending the quotation. Second is receipt of order or indent. Now the importer is there, he'll ask for the order, that is what all he requires. Say example, he'll say that I need 50 chairs, 10 tables, and etc. Right? He'll go with his own listing of orders. Like in a bulk, he'll actually go for. Now, indent in the sense, now what the exporter should do is, exporter should give the quotation, that is what all the pricing will happen, when he can deliver it, everything he lists out, the time, the place where exactly should happen, everything is listed in the receipt of order or indent. Everything is done. Next, here the real business happens. That is, whatever the importer is asking, before that the exporter should know that whether the importer is genuine or not. That is, he is there, or somebody is actually doing anything like a misconducting, or here they are doing any fraudulent act. So the exporter need to assess, he should assess the importer's credit worthiness and securing a guarantee of payment. See, the minute somebody gives you a quotation or somebody tells you that they need some 50 chairs or 10 tables, you don't need start manufacturing it. You are supposed to know their background, that is who that person is he really a businessman, or there is any fraudulent thing which is happening. Then you will actually go for whether the person has the money to pay you, because once you start manufacturing and send the things, if he doesn't pay you, now that is a question mark. Next is obtaining export license. After getting the assessment of whether the person is genuine and you got to know that the importer here is really good and he is genuine, now you need to go to the Chamber of Import Export in India and you are supposed to get a license of export, that is export license. After that, obtain pre-shipping finance. Now what exactly you want is, you need money, isn't it? Now without money you can't actually start your production, so you should obtain what? A pre-shipping finance, that is before it has been transported, you are supposed to have a pre-shipping finance. Next is production or procure. Now you can produce or you can buy from somebody else in the local market and give it to him. Next, pre-shipping inspection will happen, that is whether you have done it properly or not, is there any legality or illegality, all those things they will be checked, that is pre-shipping inspection. Later, when you, after the entire product is done, there will be a clearance from the excise. Now the people who are there in the import and export things, that is the officials, they'll actually inspect whether everything is proper and then they'll give you a clearance certificate. After that, you should actually get a certificate of origin. Now when you are manufacturing or you are actually selling from India to some other, the certificate of origin is from India only, so you are supposed to obtain a certificate of origin. Next one is reservation of shipping space, that is when you go with shipping space, I'll tell you here. Say example, I'm not so good in drawing this. Now you have a shipping which goes actually to that particular country. Now you have so many contenders, you have so many boxes, right? Now in which kind of a boxes you are supposed to place, that is what you should go for, reservation of shipping space. Which particular, say this is 2A, 3A, 4A and 5A, something like that, right? Now which space you really want your box to be. Next is packing and forwarding. You are supposed to go for a proper packing and then you want to deliver it. So what exactly the secured things which you'll be doing it, that is it, there should be no brokerage, there should be a proper kind of a transportation. So all packaging and forwarding you will actually do. Next is insurance of goods. When the goods are in the shipment, now what is that you are supposed to do is, you should always take insurance, because if something happens in the transportation while moving from one place to another, some mishandling of the product will happen. So who is to be blamed? It is you who is supposed to be blamed, but you are supposed to avoid that. That's the reason we go with insurance. Insurance is all about transferring your risk to somebody, right? That is how you will actually transfer the risk of your goods. So you will go for insurance of goods. Insurance is 100% mandatory for any goods, whatever it is. Whenever you go with import and export, you are supposed to have an insurance. Next is custom clearance. Now there should be a clearance from the shipyard saying that everything, whatever you are going for a shipment, it is all legal and it is lawful in the land, so you will get a clearance. The next here is obtaining mate receipt. Now mate receipt will actually be taken or given to a person who is the captain of the ship, who is actually going for the transportation. So he'll give you a slip, what all you have given to him, he'll just write it and give it in a seal and signature. Payment of freight. Freight means transportation charges of the ship, and issuance of bill of lading. Bill of lading means, now when you will load your items of the product to the ship, after there when the person, that is the importer, is there, now he should collect it, right? So bill of lading and the freight payment is what you are supposed to give it to the captain of the ship, and after that when he reaches the destination, he'll load the or unload the items and he'll give it to the importer. Then is the preparation of invoice, and the last one is after the goods are actually given to the importer, then you'll go with the last one, that is called securing payment. So this entire process is called the export procedure. Now when we go with it, I'll just go for a quick, that is the first one is receipt of inquiry and sending quotation. Then from there till the payment of the securing payment, the entire process is called export procedure. Today I'll be explaining you about 6 of the export procedure, and the next complete steps I'll be explaining in the next session. So what exactly this exporting procedure of the first one is? The first one is all about receipts, right? Now receipts of inquiry and sending quotation. Say the prospective buyer, that is the importer, right, of a product sends an inquiry to different exporters. Now he'll actually not send only to one particular person, he'll send it to multiple people. Whomever he feels the price or the quality is good, he'll go with those exporters, requesting them to send information regarding price, quality and terms and conditions for export of goods. Exporters can be informed of such an inquiry even by the way of advertisement in the press, say by the newspaper or media or any kind of a thing, right? They can get it. The exporter sends a reply to the inquiry in the form of quotation that referred to as pro forma invoice. Now pro forma invoice is all about giving a quotation to the importer. Next is receipt of order or indent. Now here what happens is, in the case of prospective buyer, that is the importer's firm finds the export price and other terms and conditions acceptable, it places an order. Now that means what exactly he'll go with is how much he really requires. He'll give an order saying that these are the qualities, these are the quantities, these are the color, these are the things which I really want in that particular product. So everything with the order will be placed, and what happens here is known as the indent, contains a descriptive of goods order, that is prices to be paid, delivery terms, packing and marking details and delivery instructions will all be given in the receipt of order or indent. Next one is assessing the importer's credit worthiness. Now the exporter need to always check whether the importer is a genuine person or there is any fraudulent act which is happening. Now many of the import and export, this is a common thing which has made the business in a very difficult scenario as well as complex it is more. Now there are so many people who will open an account and they'll actually mislead the other importer or the exporter, and for the gain of the little amount of profit or the commission or getting the entire order and not giving the payment. So you are supposed to always be very cautious and you should always check whether the person is real or not. So to identify that, what happens is we always go for a transaction from bank to bank. That is, the importer should also have a current account and the exporter should also have a current account. The purpose underlining the inquiry is to assess the risk of non-payment by the importer once the goods reaches the import destination. To minimize such risk, most exporters demand a letter of credit from the importer. Now a letter of credit is a guarantee issued by the importer's bank that it will honor payment up to a certain amount of export bills to the bank of the exporter. So what happens here is the bank of the exporter and the bank of the importer plays a role here for the easy transaction of the money. Obtaining export license. Now an export firm needs to have the import or import code, that is IEC. What is it? IEC, that is called import export code. Now they'll have a import export code, and that is a very unique one and it cannot be given to the same person like in a different format. It's once the code is generated, that is for him till the valuation will be there. Number has its need to be filled in the various export-import documents. It is obligatory for every exporter to get registered with the approaches or appropriate export promotion council. So here what happens is you should always have IEC, that is called import export code, and for every transaction of your import and export you are supposed to give the same code. It's like an identification that you are doing the import and export things in India as well as in different countries. So that is what you are supposed to get the export license. The next one is exporting pre-shipment finance. That is, you will go with obtaining a pre-shipment finance. Preshipment finance is the finance, that is, if you go with the pre-shipment finance, please understand, the pre-shipment finance is the finance that the exporter need for procuring raw material and other components, processing and packaging of goods, and transportation of goods to the port of shipment. So this person, what happens is he'll ask the importer to pay the little amount or the advance amount so that he can actually go for the manufacturing of the product, say raw material or packaging or all those kind of a safety measures, or to take an insurance, all those things. He needs a pre-shipment finance. So he'll be asking the importer will go for a letter of credit from the bank of importer to the bank of exporter. So that is how he'll start making money. Now, having obtained, that is production or procurement of goods. Now, you can actually produce it or you can actually go with procurement. Procurement means buying from somebody who has already produced. That is called procurement. Having obtained the pre-shipment finance from the bank, the exporter proceeds to get the goods ready as per the specification of the importer. Either the firm itself goes in the producing the goods or else it buys from the market. Now it depends on the exporter whether he'll make it or he'll buy it. Say example, we go with a process called make or buy decision. Make or buy decision. Now when we go with this make or buy decision, you need to understand the exporter will actually calculate what is the price to make a product or what is the price for buying the product in the local market. And if he feels that buying the product is actually very easy, he'll go with procurement of goods. What is that called as? Procurement of goods. So these are the things which you people should know. Still we have 12 more which we are supposed to study, and I'll tell you here students, export procedure and the import procedure both are very much complicated, but if you concentrate, understand one by one, and if you think it as a story and then you analyze it, I'll tell you it's the easiest way of learning. Vidhyaashram being the college wants to make everything easy for the students, so always be a student who will be subscribed by the channel of Vidhyaashram. Thank you so much. I'll see you when I see you.